Hello everybody, this is Miss Karen here from the Montgomery County Norristown Public Library, and we are back for another fun painting activity. So I figured since summer is starting to come to a close, we are moving into autumn, we would do one final nice summer themed painting, and I thought what better way to say goodbye to summer than doing a nice sunset painting at the beach. So we're going to learn how to mix all these colors together and get those nice palm trees in our silhouette, and we're going to make this pretty beach sunset painting. Now for this one, we are going to be mixing a lot of colors together. You can see pretty much every spot in the background has colors that are blended. Now you can do a technique like me where I dip the same brush into different colors so that the colors mix on the brush as well as on the canvas. Or you can go ahead and use something like a paper plate off to the side where you can mix those colors together. So it's up to you. Just make sure that you have something down on the table or whatever surface you're working on. Don't be like me where I have paint all over my surface here. You want to make sure you have newspaper or magazine, something behind you there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started with the very top part of our painting. We're going to do that nice sunset sky. So the first thing you want to do is imagine a line about halfway through your canvas. So if you'd like to actually draw that, if you have a pencil, I'm going to go ahead and do that here. You can use a ruler if you want it to be straight, but it doesn't need to be perfect, but that's going to be our horizon. So we're going to go about halfway down and just draw that line straight across. And you can see mine's very wobbly there, but that's perfectly okay. It's just a nice reference point for us so we know where our sky is going to end and our water is going to begin. So we're going to start out at the very top where we have kind of a pinkish red color up there. You're going to want to use one of your bigger, flatter brushes. I'm actually going to use this one over here. This is the one I used for my example, so we have all the right colors in there. So what you're going to do is dip into that nice kind of purpley pink color. You can see my colors are already a little bit mixed from the last one I painted, so that's perfectly okay. So we'll dip into that pink, and then you do also want to get some red on there as well. So you can see on my brush I have both colors together. So like I said, if you want to use a paper plate so they don't mix in your paint buckets, you just put a dollop of each and make sure you get a little bit of each onto that brush. So we're going to go ahead and start at the very top. And you can see as I paint that we're getting both of those colors in there. So it's not just the pink, not just the red. We get a little bit of each. So for the very top, you want to make sure that you have a little bit more of the dark pink than the red, just for that very, very top. So you can see it's mostly pink up there at the top. Get a nice layer of that. And then as we move down, you want to use a little bit more of the red and a little bit less of the pink. So as you move down, those colors are going to blend together. And we're going to keep working our way down the canvas. So we want to make sure that we have kind of an ombre effect, a nice gradient of those colors. So we're moving very subtly from one color to the next. So as you start to get lower down, we have more of the pink at the top, we have more of the red in the middle. Next, we're going to want to dip into our orangey yellow color here. So we're going to mix that with the red, and that'll be the next layer down. So you can see my colors are starting to get lighter and brighter as I work my way down the canvas. We're going to go ahead and get a little bit more of that yellow, and it's nice and mixing together, so we have that nice fading sunset effect. Now as we get closer to our horizon line, you want to go ahead and try to get a decent amount of yellow on your brush, and we're going to try to make that bottom part right next to the water as yellow as possible. So if you'd like, you can also get some of the white paint onto your brush. I'm not going to do that this time, but if you'd like to do that, that just gives you much brighter color down there at the bottom, makes that yellow a little bit lighter, but that's totally up to you, what your preferences are. Alrighty, so I'm going to stop there. And you can see at the top, we start with our dark pink, move into red, into an orange, and then into a nice bright yellow there in the middle. All right, so the other thing that you want to keep in mind is that you probably want to give your canvas some time to dry in between each of these steps. I'm not going to do that in this video just to make it go a little bit quicker, but when I painted my example here, I did wait about 10 minutes in between painting each of these layers of paint. So you'll see as I'm painting in the video here, I'm probably going to have some colors mixing together at that horizon line just because that paint is still wet. So if you don't want that to happen to you, no worries, just give it about 10 minutes in between and you'll see that paint dries nice and fast. So you're going to take either the same brush, if you have some water you can wash off that brush, or get another large flat brush, and we're going to move on to the water next. So you're going to start out in either the very dark or the slightly lighter blue in your paint set, it's up to you. And you're going to start with just that color on your brush, and we're going to paint that right at the top on the line with the sky, and that's going to make our horizon. So again, you'll probably see that my colors are going to mix a little bit here. My yellow is probably going to mix in with my blue because I did not wait for that paint to dry. And you can either try to keep this line perfectly straight if you'd like to use a ruler, or if you want to let it be a little bit bumpy, we can make it look like waves. So no matter which way you'd like to do it. There we go. So mine's going to be a little bit bumpy this time because I did not use a ruler, so we have some nice waves in my canvas here. All right, and there's those colors mixing. All right, so we start out with a darker blue. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and get some of the dark blue on the brush and also dip in. You can either use a lighter blue, which I used in my example here, but this time I'm going to try to use that kind of light blue green, which I thought might make a nice ocean color. So you get dark blue and one of those lighter blues onto your brush there. And we're going to go ahead and let those mix together into the next layer of paint here. So this light blue green is kind of nice, gives it a nice oceany feel. And we'll let those mix together as we're painting. All right, so we have the dark blue at the top, moving down into the lighter blue-green here at the bottom. And now you're going to go ahead, leave some of the dark blue on that brush, but we're going to dip back into the light blue, get that onto the brush, and then some of the white as well. So that's going to make that blue even lighter, and will also help it look like sea foam there at the bottom of our canvas. So for this one, you definitely don't need to have any kind of straight line here at the bottom. This is going to look like our waves crashing on the beach, mixing in with the sand, which we'll do next. All right, and you can add some kind of wave motions with your brush there if you want to add some texture to your water. All right, so we're on to step number 3. We have our sky, we have our ocean, and now we're going to go ahead and do our sand layer at the bottom. So you'll take another one of your slightly wider brushes, and this one, all we're going to do is dip directly into the white, get pure white, and then we're going to use just the tiniest little bit of brown as well. So you can see I have mostly white on my brush, a little bit of brown on the bottom, and we're going to let those mix together as we paint, and that's going to make a very nice light brown color to look like our nice light sand. And if you need more paint, I would suggest dipping back into the white only, and that will brighten up that color even more. And then again, my colors will probably be mixing here because my ocean color is still a little bit wet. So if you want to avoid that, just give that about 10 minutes to dry. And then don't worry about that being a straight line, because we certainly never have a straight line at the ocean when those waves are crashing on the beach. So this can be as curved or as wavy as you'd like. All right, so just make sure you cover up all those white spots. And there you go, we are all set. So our background is completely done. We have that nice vibrant sunset, a nice ocean, and we have our sand on the bottom. Okay, so now we're gonna move on and we're gonna do our palm trees next. So we're gonna start at the bottom corners where you can see a little bit of a hill or a bush, whatever you'd like to imagine. And we're gonna use one of the slightly smaller brushes and dip into our black paint. And you're just gonna start in the corner and just come down just like that and make almost like a little hill. I'm actually going to switch my brush here. That one's a little bit hard. So I'm going to use my sponge brush here. And you just want to fill in that whole bottom corner. We're going to do the same thing on both sides. Now again, my paint is very wet here on the bottom, so you'll see that it is mixing in with the black. So if you just give it a couple minutes in between, you won't have that problem. Try this brush again. Okay, so we have that on one side, and now we'll do the same thing on the other. So you're really just painting that bottom corner on each side and covering that in with the black paint. So the reason my brush is very hard here is because I did not wash it off when I was painting my example. So you definitely want to make sure that you're washing your brushes as soon as you use them, because if they dry with the paint on it, they're going to get very hard and crusty and a little bit difficult to use. So I'll try my sponge here one more time. And the sponge ones can be great if you want to add a little bit of texture as well. This might look kind of like it's a bush with some leaves on it. And you can do that with your water as well if you want to give some wave textures in there with the blue. All right, so once we have our two hills in the bottom corner, the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and make the trunks of our palm trees. So you're going to dip into the black paint, and we're just going to paint a big curved line starting on our little island here and coming straight up about 2/3 of the way up in the sky. So if you're like me and your paint's still dry, it might take a couple of times to get that solid black trunk here. And you can make that as thin or as thick as you'd like. I'm going to make kind of a thin one here just because it's a little difficult with the paints mixing. So if you're having the same issues that I am where the paints mixing together keep your black from being solid, you can always go back over later after the tutorial and fill in any spots where the black isn't perfect. All right, so we have the trunk of our first palm tree. Now we'll go ahead and do our second one. This one, you're not going to start at the bottom of our mound here. You're going to come out almost where the water meets the sky, and we're going to bring it out there. So you don't see the whole trunk for this palm tree, just a little bit of it. All right, and again, you can make this as skinny or as thick as you'd like. You can make it as tall or as short as you'd like. But we're going to have that one stick out from the side. So you should have one coming up from the ground and then one peeking out from the side there as well. So the next thing we're going to do is you're going to do 5 lines coming out from the top of your trunks, and those are going to dictate where our leaves go. So we're going to want to make sure that they're nice and spread out. So we have one leaf going down, one out to the side, one out to the top, to bottom on the other side, and one more at the top there. So almost looks like a star or a wishy, something like that. And we're going to add all of the little lines on the edge once we're done. So we'll do the same thing on the other side. Do one leaf there. And again, these can be as long or short as you'd like. And don't worry about making these lines thick. We're going to cover them up next with the detail. 4 and 5. All right, so we have 5 leaves sticking off of our 2 trees. Now what you're going to do is take a smaller brush, dip it in that black paint, and we're going to go ahead and draw a bunch of little lines just coming off the side, just like that, on each of the 5 leaves that we drew. And a trick, if you want to make it look nice and lifelike, for each line that you draw, you want to try to get it so that you start fat on the bottom and taper off into a point almost at the end there. So that just gives it a little bit more of a realistic look rather than just a straight line all the way down. And you're just going to add these on all 5 of your lines coming out of your tree. And we go all the way around, and we'll do that on both trees. Again, my paints are mixing a little bit still, but it's been long enough. My sky is starting to dry. These paints dry nice and quickly, so it shouldn't take too long. All right, almost done here. And now if you'd like, when you're done drawing in all of your detail, you can kind of shade in the center of that tree there a little bit, and just to make it look a little bit more full. I'm gonna draw a couple more hanging down here. All right, and then we do the same exact thing on the other tree. So I'm going pretty quickly here just so we don't waste time with this tutorial, because we still have to add just some minor details in the background. We'll add a sailboat on the water, and of course some birds flying in the distance, because you can't have a sunset without birds flying. I like to imagine that those are some annoying seagulls that stole somebody's lunch on the beach. All right, one more. All right, we'll fill that in a little bit there. All right, and our palm trees are all done. So next we're going to do the sailboat here. So again, back into that black paint, you want to keep using that small thin brush. You're going to pick any point on your canvas that you'd like, and we're just going to draw a little boat shape. So you start with a straight line, We're going to make it curved in the back, another straight line on the bottom. And then for the sailboat, we want this side to be a little bit higher than the other. So just like that. So you see I have a small curved line on this side and then a straight line on the other side. And we'll go ahead and fill that in. And next what we're going to do is make a triangle, but it's going to be a little bit curved. So we're going to do a curved line, another curved line coming out, and then we'll meet them together to make a triangle. We can make that a little bit bigger. And then you're going to do one more triangle coming off from that same top point there. So we'll make a line down, another line down, and there we go. Nice and easy sailboat. And now we're just going to paint those 3 little birds floating off into the distance. So it's nice and easy. You just do 3 V's. And you can make as many birds or as few birds as you'd like. And you can put them anywhere you'd like on that canvas. And just like that, we are all done with our beautiful sunset beach painting. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you'd like to share some pictures of your masterpiece, we would love to see them. You can share them on our Facebook page. And I hope you guys will join me for our next painting class. Thanks so much. See you again soon.